Look, thank you very much, and thanks for asking me along today. A lot of strange faces here that I don't know, so I'm not sure whether they're familiar with our operation, but our company was formed back in 1944 by my late grandfather and his two sons, Don and Les, which a lot of you probably know. Our family has owned and operated various sawmilling ventures in the district on a continuous basis ever since. We've been operating on our current site since 1956. We currently employ about 120 people and process approximately 340,000 tonne of small diameter log per annum. As a general rule of thumb, sawmills will convert approximately 50% of their log into some form of timber product. And in our case, approximately 170,000 tonnes of residues, products in the form of wood chips, sawdust and bark is produced each year. All of these products are potentially fuel sources for bioenergy. The current levels of volume of wood chip we produce is enough to operate a 3 megawatt, to produce 3 megawatts of electricity and up to 15 megawatts of thermal power. It's interesting to note that when my grandfather started our business all those years ago, the saw bench he used was powered by a single cylinder 6 horsepower Marshall steam engine, which was, the engine was fired by pine offcuts that the logs, from the logs they were milling at the time. I often never quite smile when I hear people talk about this new clean green energy system. We, like all other businesses, are constantly looking at ways to improve and grow our business. And in 2013, our general manager, the guy down there with the guilty smile on his face that dobbed me in for this, Craig Nisbet and I set off on a fact-finding mission to get a better understanding of the potential for combined heat and power generation. We visited sites in France, Italy, and ventured as far north as Latvia. The most obvious thing that struck us was the level of government subsidy that underpinned the whole industry throughout Europe. Across Europe, there are various supporting instruments in place to encourage the production of energy from renewable sources, the main being quota obligations, feed-in tariffs and feed-in premiums. Feed-in tariff is a guaranteed fixed price for electricity, while the feed-in premium is a guaranteed premium which is paid in addition to the market price for electricity. These incentives typically last for 20 to 25 years. In Italy, for example, companies will receive over €300 per megawatt hour for electricity. €200 of that is in the form of a government subsidy. Thermal power, they receive €100 and €30 of that is a government incentive. A plant will typically use around 15% of the electricity produced for internal consumption. This is purchased from the grid at the price less the government incentives. France was the standout exception, with only enough bioenergy plants to meet the European policy for renewals and the bulk of the power coming from nuclear. Interesting to note that France also had the cheapest power cost overall. Australia, as like Europe, has a policy to ensure that at least 20% of our electricity comes from renewable sources by 2020. In order to achieve this, incentive schemes must need to be reviewed to further encourage the use of biomass for energy production as in Europe. Our site currently uses around 3 megawatts of electricity, which, as mentioned, could be produced using our residual product stream. The main constraint for us, however, is that we do not have the use of the thermal power at present, which is a key part of the electricity production process, and this has a significant impact on the commercial viability of any power generation project. It is worth noting, however, that Kraft Foods is situated approximately 500 metres from our site, and I understand is a user of thermal energy. We have the hospital also within a kilometre from our site, and I think the possibility of sharing energy output from the plant is a viable option and must be explored. In Italy, we saw thermal energy being piped up to 25 kilometres to hospitals, businesses and shopping centres. When we looked at the commercial aspects of bioenergy, income currently available from energy production in Australia is relatively low compared to the majority of developed countries, particularly in comparison to Europe. At the time of our trip, Australia was ranked 9th cheapest for household electricity prices out of 30 OECD economies. Conceptually, all the pieces seem to be in place. Our sawmill produces the resources. The technology required is now fully developed and in operation. In Europe, and potential markets exist. The question for us, though, is how should these pieces of the puzzle come together? The main question in need of answer is who is best placed to invest in and operate the energy production facility. This is the major link between the available resource and the potential market. Our conclusion at the time is that while we see the potential of this technology, it did not fit within our core business plan, and unless there are subsidies issued, as been mentioned earlier today, I can't see that there's a viable place for renewable energy at this time. Having said that, however, when I look around our region and the potential we have, both new and existing business, to value add and grow by working in collaboration, the opportunities are endless. In planning for the future, we need to ensure that all agencies make sure that planning for business hubs where a project of this nature could be shared by many, both in cost savings and adding to our clean, green and renewable image. Thank you very much.